Hi everyone, my name is Nick, and today we're going to discuss a topic that I get asked about all the time, and that is, how on earth do I have 2 cats in my home with 400 houseplants? So buckle up, I'm going to try to share as many tips as I possibly can around this subject because I know it's a hot topic. So just to give you a little bit of backstory, what came first, the cats or the plants? The plants came first. I started growing houseplants when I was 20 years old, and it wasn't until I was around 23, I believe, when I got my cat Muffin. That's her legal name. She typically goes by the nicknames Spoots, Doots, or a combination of those 95% of the time. And I remember having a moment the night before I got her in my home. I only probably had about 75 houseplants, which, to me is only at this point, but that's still a lot of houseplants to be introducing to a kitten. I just remember having this moment just being like, oh my gosh, I better just enjoy my houseplants tonight because they might be torn to shreds tomorrow and I might have to get rid of a lot of them. But I was very delightfully surprised when my kitten moved into my home and she didn't even pay any mind to them. She really didn't notice anything. Even the asparagus fern that was like sitting completely at her eye level, she just didn't even notice. The thing that she liked to do most was just tap my snake plants with her tail as she was walking by. Like, she literally didn't care about them. So I got very, very lucky there. Fast forward a year when I moved into my current apartment now with my best friend, and she also has a cat. His name is Denver. I'm sure I'm showing footage right now or have already of the cats. And he has a much different temperament than my cat Muffin. Denver, just to put it plainly, we have child locks on our kitchen cabinets that contain food, so you can do the math, but he was a completely different story with my houseplants. He would jump up into the windows and on the counters and tables to just knock down my plants and chew on them and break my pots and break my stems, and it was just a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare, and it's been a long time since then. As I said, it's been 3 years, so I've found ways to deal with this cat and have him live by my rules and not have to have me living by his rules, if you get what I'm saying. So first and foremost, I think the most important thing is, if you have a cat that's going to chew on your plants, to make sure that the ones that he's going to chew on or she's going to chew on are non-toxic or pet friendly. So it's very not much on camera, but it's always here. I have this Calathea orbifolia. This is Denver's go-to houseplant. Let me just paint a picture for you. It's 4:30 p.m. and my roommate comes home from work, and Denver is hungry and he wants his food, but my roommate does not feed Denver till it's 6 p.m. on the dot. I don't know why, it's her thing. She can do whatever she wants. And he will go after my Calathea orbifolia. This thing is torn to shreds. The lower leaves are literally just, the complete circumference of the leaves are just torn to shreds. I'm fortunate to have some nice leaves in the center, and one day this plant will look perfect because at some point this year my roommate will be moving out with their cat and then I will no longer have to deal with these issues. So it's exactly why I'm making this video right now. I want to talk about this topic while I absolutely can. The only thing that I feel like is kind of a setback is that there's really not that huge of a selection of large pet-friendly houseplants. So like I said, Calathea orbifolia is great. I've been seeing Calathea makoyana sold in larger pots, which looks fantastic and is an easier Calathea in my opinion. You can even find plenty of 6-inch pots of Calatheas always, but if we're talking like 8-inch or 10-inch, just like larger sized floor plants, it's a little bit more difficult to find. You can usually find Stromanthe, sanguinea, the Triostar, I think it's sanguinea, I'm sorry, Stromanthe talia now or something like that. But that's another one that's usually readily available that is pet friendly, as well as Ctenanthe setosa, which I'm not positive on what the common name is that. Of course, I'll leave all of these plants in the description. Also ferns, which of course some of the more frilly ferns, like an ostrich fern, is something that would get chewed on by a cat, I'm sure, no doubt about it, but like a bird's nest fern, something that's a little bit more thick, is something that would definitely hold up to a cat like Denver, and something that I don't even think he would really think about chewing on it for a while. Has my cat, or my roommate's cat, chewed on other plants in my home? Absolutely. He's chewed on so many of my plants, and he's chewed on a lot that he shouldn't be chewing on, ones that are mildly and medium toxic. I don't really keep any like extremely toxic or fatal plants in my home. I have 2 euphorbias and they are stuffed into the back of a windowsill where there's no way he can get to it. But he's chewed on things like my Monstera adansonii and my philodendron brawl marks. And is it, oh god, there's a fungus gnat in my face. Is that good to be chewing on? Absolutely not. But is it going to send my cat to the vet, or my roommate's cat? I'm going to call Denver my cat for this video because I care for him enough at this point. But No, it's not going to send him to the vet. If he ate the entirety of the plant and the root structure, maybe we would have some issues and maybe he would be throwing up and I would be a little bit worried. But from my knowledge, the issue with these plants, most of these plants that are toxic, is that they have calcium oxalates in the leaves. And these are basically like little glass shards or crystals that are in the saps of these plants. And if it gets in the cat's mouth, it's going to irritate their mouth and it's going to upset their stomach, possibly make them throw up. I don't think it's anything that's going to cause them to be like scarily impaired in very small amounts. Like if your cat just nibbles on your philodendron, you do not have to worry. So I know that there's a lot of worry with having cats and plants in your home, specifically having ones that are considered toxic and not on the ASPCA pet-friendly list, but I don't think that's something you need to freak out about. I think you just need to really be aware of what plants are extremely toxic or possibly fatal, because you absolutely do not want to keep those in your home. And of course, you can check out the ASPCA's list for more information about that, which I will of course leave linked below. And keeping that in mind, I think there are a couple other options that are very suitable for cats. So I always recommend sanguinea or snake plants. Are they non-toxic? Absolutely not. But they have a structure that I find with Denver, who is a very explorative cat with his little fangs. He doesn't even think a snake plant's a plant. He does not even notice it. He does not think twice about it. I could leave one on a table and he wouldn't even worry about it. I actually have one sitting in the hallway right now because I'm replacing another one. So it's just sitting there. He doesn't even notice it. It's not my worry. Typically, if I am to leave something out of place, Denver can just feel that there is a plant out of place somewhere in his region. He will just go and start chewing them down. So I have to be really careful when I like put my mounted ferns in the sink, because if I leave them there for like over a couple hours while they're draining and Denver finds them, I will hear some crunching from the kitchen and I will have to go run in to scare him off so my ferns aren't damaged. But it's happened plenty of times, I'm sure you can imagine. But also I think that trees are a great option, like the standard trees. Think like a fiddly fig or a ficus audrey or altissima that are sold in those standard trees where they have like a 4 or 5 foot trunk already and all the foliage is up top. That's a great option. Of course, if you have a cat that's going to climb the tree, that is not a good option. But I do think that is a great way to bring some foliage into your home. Of course, you have to pick up the leaves if they fall off to make sure that your cats don't chew on them. But if it's, you know, out of reach, your cat really can't get to it. So that's something to really consider as well. But moving on from the obvious, which is really just having pet-friendly plants in your home or plants that just don't register as plants to your cats, I think it's really, like I said, important to get those plants that you want to have in your home, but you're worried about your cats chewing on them, just out of reach. So hanging plants is a really great option. And I hang plants all over my home. If you've watched any of my houseplant tours or my videos on trailing plants and stuff like that, I'm sure you've seen that I literally have just like hooks everywhere in my ceiling. Am I gonna get my security deposit back? That's a great question. But a lot of people are concerned about drilling in their walls and their ceilings. So there's actually a couple ways that I get around that. So first and foremost, inside your windows, you can kind of, well, not necessarily inside, but like right above your window, I will nail a nail. I will, of course, put this on screen, but I will nail a nail above the window, because the way that my windows are, and a lot of windows I've had in my homes have kind of like a ledge above them, and I can just kind of hang the plants down into there. So I just kind of nail a nail into the window frame and hang a bunch of plants from there. I also have been getting into the Vanda baskets, which is just an extremely lightweight hanging basket made of wood. And I feel very comfortable hanging those on cup hooks, which you do screw into your ceiling, but it is so minimal on the damage that you could probably just cover it up with toothpaste or a little bit of spackle when you're moving out. And I think that's a great option as well. I would not hang a terracotta pot from a cup hook, but I feel fine hanging little jars of water and my Vanda baskets from them, just because, like I said, it's too lightweight, it's not gonna rip it out of the ceiling. A couple other options to keep the plants out of reach of your cats are wall shelves, of course, which will involve drilling, but you could also use bookcases. I have a bookcase in my home that I have filled up with plants, at least on the upper levels. The lower levels I kind of keep open because Denver likes to go in there and hang out. And wall mount or wall mounted plants, that's something that you can make yourself. I've done videos on how to make these, or you can just purchase them from local plant stores or online. I'm sure plenty of people make them. And that's a really fun way to display plants in your home, and there's absolutely no way your cats can get to them, except of course when you take them down to water them in your sink, and then if you get a little forgetful, their cats can go chew on them. So I guess be a little bit mindful there, but I think that might be just a me problem. Of course, you would have to put a nail on your wall if you are hanging a mount, but I think some mounts are light enough that you could probably get away with just using like a command hook or something along those lines. And wall macrame is fantastic, like the wall hangings. I think I have them behind me here with this Philodendron Tahiti and another one with this Hoya Callistophylla, and these are great options just to put things on the wall. Once again, of course, do involve nails. I think this one right here is light enough, the Hoya, that it could probably be hung with a command hook. But that one would fall right off the wall. So, be mindful, make sure you're hanging things correctly, especially if you have cats in your home, because you don't want anything to fall on your cats. So that's very important as well. And you can absolutely get away with keeping plants on your surfaces too. As you see, I am surrounded by plants here that are just sitting on tables, and this one's on the TV stand. But really the most important tip there is to just simply stuff your surfaces. So this whole plant corner is just stuffed to the point where Denver really can't get to it other than the Calathea orbifolia that's on the floor. And my windowsills as well, they are just completely stuffed to the gills. There's so many plants in the windowsill, there's plants hanging up in the windows, it's just completely full, he just cannot get into the window. Of course, I have to recommend that you leave a window, at least one window, for your cats to go sunbathe in. We have 2 in my roommate's room that are south-facing windows that gets a lot of light, and the cats really love laying in there, so they get those. But once my roommate in Denver moves out, I'm taking at least one of those windows because Muffin only needs one window. But nevertheless, do make sure that you leave your cats some nice windowsill space. But even when you're working with tables and stuff, like the kitchen counter, I have like the back of it kind of stuffed up, and then I have some like smaller plants in the front that are kind of blocking it, and he doesn't really seem to mind that. Of course, we don't like to have the cat on the counter or the table, so we try to get him off of that as much as possible, but we can't stop him when we're not around, so just kind of, playing that in mind. And if you are working with an open space on a table and you really want to have a plant there, I think the most simple thing you could possibly do is just put a glass enclosure on top of the plant, or a glass cloche, and just have the plant growing inside. In fact, that will replicate like a greenhouse condition, and I'm sure that your plant would absolutely love growing inside the glass more than it would appreciate being outside, especially in your dry home during the winter. Or you could even use a decorative terrarium and just kind of fancy up a nice glass full of a bunch of plants and have that on your table as decoration. And if it's enclosed, even better, because your cat can't stick your face inside it and start chewing on it. I have had Denver put his face inside one of my terrariums before, so just a couple things to keep in mind there. But there are so many options to keep your cats away from your plants. I think the most literal way to keep your cats away is to simply just make a plant room. So my bedroom is the plant room in my home. I have it full of plants. There are at least like 200 plants shoved in there, and I absolutely love it because it's just so cozy to sleep in. Some people might get bothered by the humidity in the summertime, but I don't really mind it. It's probably very good for my skin, but I'm used to it at this point, and I think it's great. I think it's the way that I like living my life, so it doesn't really bother me. Like I said, I could see people having issues with that, but it doesn't have to be your bedroom. It could be your spare room, it could be your office, it could be your basement that you put in a little mini greenhouse with grow lights in. Like, it can be whatever you want, but if you have the space, you can absolutely allot some space in your home for strictly growing plants. Keep the door shut. It'll probably keep the humidity higher anyway. Of course, you don't want it to be too high because you don't want to be molding in your home, but I usually don't have the humidity go over 60%, so that's something that I think is really important. If you push that, I mean, of course your plants will love it, but like I said, keep in mind that it's a home and that there's wood and carpet and stuff, and that you don't want mold there, and that greenhouses are greenhouses for a reason. So don't overdo the plant room. You could almost say I'm overdoing it to a point, but once again, I think that might be a me problem. So I think that's pretty much all the tips I really have to share. I don't have any tips really about like keeping your cats off of your plants. I've heard rumors about the like Mechanics bitter apple spray, like spraying that on your plants to keep the cats from chewing on them. I've never tried that myself. Of course, I've heard enough about it that I do want to mention it. I just can't speak on it. But I am more about just preventing the cats from chewing on the plants by not allowing them to be able to chew on the plants, by just having them out of reach, or of course basically leaving a nice pet-friendly plant for the cat to take out his anger on. So that's gonna do it for today's video. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comments. I'm very curious. This is absolutely a topic I can discuss more on. But anyway, thanks again for joining me. If you don't already, follow me on Instagram at phillyfoliage, subscribe to my channel. I will leave all the links below. and I will see you in my next video. Have a great day. We might have gotten